Konstantin Somov was a Russian artist associated with the Mir Iskусства, world of art, movement that began in the last decade of the 19th century. After the Russian Revolution, he eventually emigrated to Paris, along with other prominent figures in the Russian arts. In private life, he had a longtime, younger male companion, Methody Lukyanov, and an ambiguous artistic and personal relationship with a young boxer, Boris Snezhkovsky, whom he painted many times. In the 21st century, his paintings have sold in the millions of dollars. In 2007, Somov's The Rainbow sold at Christie's London for £3,716,000 or $7.33 million, an auction record for a Russian work of art. While a student at the Karl May School in St. Petersburg, Somov became close friends with Dmitry Filosofov. Alexandra Benois, also a student, later wrote that some kind of magic circle separated them from the others. Later, Filosofov was sent to Italy due to illness, and Somov, who had a hard time studying science, was withdrawn from the school by his father. At the age of 20, Somov entered the Imperial Academy of Arts, where he studied under Ilya Repin, from 1888 to 1897. While at the academy, he met Sergei Diaghilev, the art critic, and Leon Bakst, the artist and costume designer. Somov traveled to Italy in 1890 and 1894, and the 2 winters he spent in Paris, in 1897 and 1898, he later recalled as the happiest days of his life. Somov's first major success came a year before graduation from the academy. Somov and Benois spent the summer of 1896 at a dacha near Oranienbaum, in the village of Martyshkino. The landscapes and sketches he created there were highly praised by critics and colleagues. That year he also created illustrations for the works of Ernst Hoffmann, the German author of fantasy and Gothic horror. In 1898 and 1899, Somov was a founding member of Mir Iskусства, World of Art, a Russian artistic movement and magazine, edited by his friend Sergei Diaghilev, that was a major influence on the Russians who revolutionized European art during the first decade of the 20th century. He served on the editorial board and contributed illustrations and designs. For 3 years, from 1897 to 1900, he worked on his early masterpiece Lady in Blue, a portrait of Elizaveta Martinova, painted in the manner of 18th-century portraitists. Along with landscape and portrait painting, watercolors, gouache, and graphics, Somov worked in the field of small plastic arts, creating exquisite porcelain compositions. He had his first solo exhibition in St. Petersburg in 1903 featuring 162 paintings, sketches and drawings. By 1910, Somov was a famous and accepted painter, and just as every household of taste had a landscape by Benois and a dress designed by Bakst, so it had a miniature by Somov. By 1917, judging by the high auction prices for his work, Somov must have been a rich man. The colorful, festive visions created by Somov had a darker side. The Russian poet Mikhail Kuzmin noted, "Some kind of demon is constantly pushing the artist. As if a piece of a magic mirror from Andersen's fairy tale had hit him in the eye, anxiety. Irony, the puppet theatricality of the world, the comedy of eroticism, the variegation of masquerade freaks, the false light of candles, the sorcery skull hidden under rags and flowers, automatic love poses, deadness and creepiness of amiable smiles. This is the pathos of a number of Somov's works. Oh, how not cheerful is this gallant Somov! What a terrible mirror he holds up to the laughing holiday. The art critic, Alexandra Benois, called Somov one of the most delicate poets and one of the most refined masters of modern painting, even as he classified Somov's work as decadent and presciently wrote that, "Only with the decline of a culture do such figures appear as that of Somov, in virtue of all his merits and failings." Somov may count upon one of the most prominent places in the history of Russian painting. No other artist of the beginning of the 20th century has mirrored with greater faithfulness the peculiar charm of our super-refined epoch, which knows so much and believes so little. From 1907 to 1919, Somov drew over 120 ink drawings, some merely suggestive, some quite explicit, for multiple editions of Le Livre de la Marquise. The book is an anthology of 18th-century erotic French poetry and prose, and contains 56 works by some 50 authors, including excerpts from works by Voltaire, Parny, fragments from Les Liaisons Dangereuses by Choderlos de la Closse, and individual episodes from Casanova's memoirs. Among connoisseurs, Somov was given the nickname Sodomov, to which the artist responded, "The essence of everything is eroticism. Therefore art is unimaginable without an erotic basis." Commenting on one edition, the Russian academician A. Sidorov said that Somov seemingly permitted himself everything from which Russian art had abstained. The best of today's graphic artists has genuinely surpassed himself. The most explicit edition was published after the Russian Revolution abolished censorship in 1917, which gave Somov the opportunity of publishing a luxurious edition of the book with bolder illustrations. One of the best printing houses in St. Petersburg, R. Golik and A. Vilborg and Company, produced 800 copies. In addition, part of the run was printed in a special collector's version with additional indecent illustrations which might even be described as pornographic. Somov's reaction to the Russian Revolution was negative. One by one his colleagues emigrated, his clientele disappeared overnight, and his retrospective pictures became meaningless to the new artistic consciousness. Nonetheless, he became a professor at the Petrograd Free Art Educational Studios, the renamed Imperial Academy of Arts, in 1918, and in 1919 he celebrated his 50th birthday jubilee with a one-man exhibition at the Tretyakov Gallery in Moscow. Living conditions deteriorated in Russia. His apartment was nationalized, and he was later evicted. He struggled to retain the rights to his art. Somov left Russia in 1923 to accompany the seminal exhibition of Russian art that took place in New York in 1924. In the USA, he became close to the family of Sergei Rachmaninoff and painted portraits of the composer and his daughter. He never returned to his homeland, declaring Soviet Russia absolutely alien to his art. He chose instead to settle in Paris in 1925, joining the community of Russian émigré artists, writers, dancers, and musicians that included his old friends Benois, Bakst and Serebryakova. As a child, Somov preferred to play with dolls and make costumes for them, and it was easiest for him to be friends with girls. Despite his social connections, travels abroad, and his active participation in the art scene of turn-of-the-century Russia, Somov as a young man suffered from loneliness, as evidenced by a letter dated February 14, 1899, when Somov was 29, to his friend and colleague Elizaveta Svontsova. "Unfortunately, I still have no romance with anyone, flirting, perhaps, but very light. But I'm tired of being without romance. It's time, otherwise life passes by, and youth, and it becomes scary." I terribly regret that my character is heavy, tedious, gloomy. I would like to be cheerful, easygoing, amorous, a daredevil. Only such people have fun, those not afraid to live." In 1910, when Somov was 40, he met 18-year-old Methody Lukyanov, who became Somov's closest companion and became part of the Somov family. He also helped Somov run his household and organize exhibitions, and served as Somov's trusted advisor and critic. During World War I, the homosexual British novelist Hugh Walpole worked as a British correspondent in Russia. While in St. Petersburg in 1915, Walpole formed a close friendship with Somov and in February 1916 moved into Somov's flat. Walpole left Russia on November 7, 1917, the day the Bolshevik Revolution began. In 1918, Somov painted a large portrait of Methody Lukyanov sitting on a sofa in pajamas and a dressing gown, which is now in the Russian Museum in St. Petersburg. In the spring of 1931, in Paris, Lukyanov fell ill with tuberculosis. In great distress, Somov wrote to his sister in Russia, "Every minute of my life is now torment. Although I do everything I need to eat, talk with visitors, even work a little, the thought of Methodius and the upcoming separation does not leave me. Now I absorb into myself his face, his every word, knowing that soon I will not see him again. Yesterday, lying on a mattress, on the floor by his bed, I tried to pray mentally, 'It's me. God, if you exist and care about people, save Methodius to me, and I will believe in you.' But it's all in vain." In June 1930, Somov met Boris Mikhailovich Snezhkovsky, who modeled for Daphnis when Somov created illustrations for Daphnis and Chloe. Snezhkovsky was henceforth referred to by Somov in his diaries as Daphnis. Mikhail Seslavinsky in his Rendezvous quotes Somov speaking about Snezhkovsky, "My model, a Russian, 19 years old, turned out to be clever, well-educated and nice." During the course of the 1930s, Somov went on to paint his model on numerous occasions, both clothed and nude. In a letter dated 28 February 1933, Somov wrote to his sister, "2 days ago, I finished a portrait in oil, a new, half-length, and afterwards I painted a still life beside him. A mirror, behind him a chest of drawers, on which lay his shirt and vest, with a pair of boxing gloves hanging on the wall. The painting is not bad." Known as the Boxer, Somov's "not bad" portrait of Snezhkovsky was auctioned at Christie's London in 2011, where it realized £713,250. Somov was known for his ironic and self-deprecating humor. "I would like to become Angra," he once said. Or if not Angra, then at least his little toe. Somov died in 1939 at the age of 69. He was buried in the Sainte-Geneviève des Bois Russian Cemetery, south of Paris.